My name is Richard Dawson. I'm the CEO and a co-founder at Reglagene, and you will hear forward-looking statements in the next few minutes. The number one problem in developing new therapies for the treatment of brain diseases is just simply getting the therapy into the brain. All of us are endowed with a blood-brain barrier, and the blood-brain barrier is a filter that's designed to prevent toxins from going into our brains. But in the case of brain diseases, it also prevents the entry of what might otherwise be effective therapies. Consider brain cancers. Whether it's a primary tumor from glioblastoma or a brain metastasis from breast or lung cancer, those outcomes are the same. Patients live about a year after that first diagnosis. Now, we've done a great job as a society in the early detection and development of new therapies for cancer, but true innovation for brain cancer is lacking, and it's really because of this problem of the blood-brain barrier. Reglagene is doing something about this. RGN-6024 is an oral brain penetrant cancer therapy. Now, every drug therapy targets some molecular species in the body, be it a DNA or a protein or what have you. And Reglagene's RGN-6024 targets a protein known as tubulin. Tubulin is the most well-validated target in the history of cancer therapy. There are 7 FDA-approved drugs that target the tubulin protein, and these have collectively saved millions of lives across a variety of cancers, unless a patient presents with a brain tumor. And in those cases, those tubulin therapies that are approved at the FDA level are ineffective because they just don't get into the brain. Reglagene is doing something about this. We have designed RGN-6024 as the first tubulin targeting therapy that is specific for brain cancer. We challenged RGN-6024 in a therapy-resistant glioblastoma model. We took a patient sample, put it in mice, divided those mice up into three groups, and over 15 days of oral dosing compared placebo with today's standard of care, a drug called temozolomide, and RGN-6024, our drug. By the end of the study, we had reduced tumor growth by 54% relative to placebo and had beaten standard of care. But what is really exciting about this therapy is that in 50% of the mice, by the time we hit the end of the study, 50% were undergoing tumor shrinkage. And this is a therapy-resistant tumor line. This is hard to pull off. Now, Reglagene does have a competitor. There's a company called PTC Therapeutics that has a drug called unesbulin that they have taken in the early stages of human clinical trials. They do plan to go after a type of brain cancer in the clinic, but quite frankly, their molecule is just not as good as ours. Pfizer has developed a scoring system to predict brain penetration, and Reglagene's therapy scores more than 50% higher than PTC's does on this scale, and ours is predicted to be fully brain penetrant. But more importantly, in the gold standard model for predicting human brain penetration, Reglagene, when orally dosing 6024, we get 4 times the amount of drug on board in brain than what is needed to shrink tumors. Unesbulin in the same study, only with artificial disruption of that blood-brain barrier are they able to get their product into the brain. We have an outstanding patent position. Reglagene has discovered and developed 6024 on our own. We are filing the patent application next week on this new compound. We have a backup therapy, which the patent was filed in 2021, and we began with the licensed patent estate from the University of Arizona. Now, the possession of a tubulin targeting therapy that gets into the brain opens up a variety of indications. We know that our molecules are potent blockers of the inflammatory response. And so that opens up diseases in the area of COVID and long COVID, who can, brain fog is now a part of our everyday vocabulary, but Parkinson's disease is also driven by neuroinflammation. These are clinically validated multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. You see here on the left-hand side our analysis of the market for brain cancer, COVID in the middle, Parkinson's on the right. United States numbers only, high unmet patient need. We are projecting nominal market penetrations, and even with that, total market opportunity, $8.5 billion in the US alone. We have an outstanding team. I have 30 years in the pharmaceutical industry, all on the R&D side. from the laboratory bench to operations management. Everybody else on my team has that same level of deep experience. And this is a team that knows how to develop drugs. 37 new medicines into human clinical trials from this team. We do have open a preferred equity round. It's a $4.6 million raise on an $11 million pre-money. There is a warrant coverage here. We've closed on the first 3.3 million. Part of that was note conversions. We've gotten 1.7 million in direct A1 investment. We have 500K in investments that we're bringing across the line, and there's 800K left in this round. Series A1 shareholders will own 40% of Reglagene on a fully diluted basis. This is the round to be in. Now, our numbers seem kind of small for what we're asking for as a therapeutics development company, but we do that because we've been we run a very tight ship here. You see our annual expenses across the top for the 4 years we've been operational, total of $4 million. And the thing I'm most proud of here is we designed, manufactured, and tested 800 drug prototypes to choose the one that is the best of those to carry forward. You would be hard pressed to find another company that has been as efficient with its dollars. And we can do this because we operate out of Arizona, where our costs are low, while accessing the best service providers around the globe at competitive prices. Now, I just want to explain this warrant that we're offering because it's quite unique. Every preferred share will receive 1 share of common stock. Common stock is typically used to incentivize employees. So we're essentially doing stock options for investors here. 3-year term for the warrant, priced at today's fair market valuation, not the one 3 years from now, today. And I'll remind you that common stock is typically valued at a fraction of preferred stock. It's very nearly a stock two for one. Now, use of proceeds, 2023, here are our goals. Getting ready for the IND. You got to do 2 things at the FDA: prove that you're not going to kill patients when you dose them, and prove that you know how to manufacture it safely and reliably. That's the focus. But we're also to the stage now to where we have to establish therapeutic scope to entice clinicians to come along with us in the phase 1 trial. So we'll be doing additional studies with our therapy as a standalone and combination therapy with today's standards of care across a variety of cancers. Our goals for this year: establish therapeutic dose can be achieved in a dog model, then show that we can dose at that level repeatedly and safely, and then have our FDA pre-IND meeting this summer to finalize that preclinical development plan. We are all about creating value on this round. There are 5 companies publicly traded on the NASDAQ that look a lot like us. Orally administered cancer therapy. They have filed their IND, and we're going to be there in about 15 months' time. They have filed their IND, haven't yet reported out clinical data. Median market cap for these 5 companies, and these are all 5 that meet those criteria, $350 million. Reglagene has raised money milestone to milestone. That's what we've done. That's how we're going to go forward in the future. You can see our objectives here on the bottom: IND submission in 2024 and starting human clinical trials shortly thereafter. With human clinical data, we anticipate we will be in that exit zone. I just want to remind you that 84% of exiting therapeutics companies, they do so before finishing phase 2. We actually had our first M&A serious inquiry last week, and so we could be there at any time ourselves. Just want to wrap up by saying RGN-6024, we have achieved outstanding proof of concept. The target is fully de-risked. It's the best cancer target in the history of cancer treatment. We can dose at levels that are safe, far below that toxic dose in our animal models. Outstanding IP position, concise 3-step manufacturing process, and a diversified clinical development plan. We're looking for that last 800K to close out this round, and I'll just close by saying today is the day to invest in Reglagene.